I love Insomniac Games. I think we all do lately with what they've done for the Spider-Man franchise. The storytelling, the fun of swinging around New York, even how much the accessibility has improved in 5 years, going back to the pre-remastered Spider-Man 1 in 2018. So my anticipation for Spider-Man 2 was high. What would Insomniac do to improve accessibility again? Well, I think I probably should have waited until December. Let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Steve Saylor, I'm blind, and I play video games. If you want to know how, click here or click the link in the description below. While you're down there, click the like and subscribe buttons. Plus, click the link to my Patreon. If you want to help support me and my accessibility work, take a look at what I have available at patreon.com/Steve Saylor. Thanks a lot. Okay, so while what I said wasn't technically clickbait, I wish I had reviewed this game in December instead of now at launch. The reason is that recently on a PlayStation blog post, Insomniac listed all of the accessibility that will be in the game at launch, and also features that will be released after launch in December of this year, 2023. This isn't uncommon. Normally we have seen updates from games post-launch for accessibility. What is uncommon is that PlayStation was transparent about what the game will have and won't have at launch, which I do applaud and appreciate because it's something I've been wanting from studios and companies for a while. So what is coming in December? There will be a screen reader. There's going to be audio descriptions for in-game cinematics, full captions for sound effects and non-dialogue sounds, and including combat audio, mono audio adjustments, adjusting color options for the center dot, setting a high contrast preset, which is something I kind of wished was in the game at launch, and a high contrast outlines instead of full shaders on characters. There's toggles for in-game menu holds, disabling the touchpad in combat, and lastly, controller remapping. That is a lot of accessibility to sadly not have at launch. So if any of those features are options you need, you can either buy the game now and wait until December for the free update to release, or wait to buy in December. You know, actually might be a good gift to put on your Christmas list this year. Ask the video game Santa. So with that being said, I do want to review what is here, knowing there is more to come. So that's why this review video is labeled as a review so far and not a full review. Now, let's first talk about the game in and of itself. Marvel's Spider-Man 2 does include some amazingly fun moments outside of accessibility that are just a blast to do and play through. This is where one of the rare times I was able to roll credits and complete the main story and still want to keep going. Insomniac is great at that for past Spider-Man games, which being my first platinum, the first Spider-Man back in 2018, and I think I actually may want to go for a platinum again in this one. I've loved the side quests that you do outside of the story, as they are more than just find these backpacks that offer more lore and insight to the characters you're interacting with and playing as. Sure, some are repetitive, but they don't overstay their welcome. You can do a quick photograph session of fun moments in New York, take on some of the hunters and secret bases in Harlem, or even do some longer side missions with a whole story from beginning to end. By the way, there is a music-themed side mission that you must do. It is my favorite of the whole game and extremely well done. I won't spoil it for you, just it's great, trust me. The story is top-notch Insomniac at their best. They've mastered the nuances of Peter Parker, Miles Morales, and their family of characters that really do flesh out the story. I don't think it's my favorite of the 3 games we've had, as I think my favorite is still Miles Morales, but Insomniac didn't hold back on Spider-Man 2. There are some great moments I didn't see coming, and some great little story moments that make the game an absolute blast to play. Now, let's talk about accessibility. Most accessibility added into Miles Morales and also Spider-Man Remastered, plus even some things from Ratchet & Clank, makes this one of the more accessible games released this year. It'll be in the top list, but I don't think it will be in the top spot for most accessible game coming out this year. For all disabled players, they do have disabled presets depending on what you need, from vision, motor, hearing, and motion sensitivity presets. For blind players, Insomniac's extensive high contrast modes are back. You can adjust the colors of the shaders on the characters, adjust whether you want a muted background or not, or even do you want to turn off high contrast mode for your character, you can do that too. And believe me, it came in handy. There actually were some very dark moments in the game, not in story or tone, but in actual brightness, and it was really difficult to see your own character at times, let alone anyone else's. I don't know if that was a glitch of my review copy or my capture card or HDR or what, but anytime there was a night mission or anything set in a dark environment, I had to have high contrast mode on all the time just to see what was going on, or even find that one bad guy that's in a corner somewhere just to end that combat encounter. The larger icons are back as well, which makes it easier to see in the open New York City where your objective is and all the side objectives, such as crimes popping up or even close by camera missions and everything in between. Even with the brand new web wings feature that lets Spider-Man fly through all of New York, you can scan the area and you can easily see a high contrast trail that lets you know there is a wind tunnel that's nearby that you can fly into and get an extra boost of speed to fly through without having to swing your webs. And yes, you can technically fly from one end of the city to another without touching the ground or getting out of web wings once. There actually is even a trophy for doing so. The text is relatively large for low vision players, but I did feel that the UI elements had a bit of busyness to it, making some text a little harder to read. I don't think I needed a minimalist looking interface, but a more subdued look would have been better for clarity. There are also a few features that are shared by other disabilities, but also can be used for blind players. An enhanced auto aim feature will snap to targets when in aim mode. Plus, there's also an option that I found useful in all 3 Spider-Man games, where if you push R3, the camera will automatically move towards the waypoint where you need to go. It's not the best for navigational assistance, as it doesn't help with height or depth, but when you do get close to the waypoint, either a voice line will prompt you to say you're nearby, or on story missions, it will start a cinematic within about 20 to 30 meters of that waypoint, so you don't have to be super precise with getting to that waypoint exactly. For deaf and hard of hearing players, the game has options for larger subtitles, adjusting background, speaker tag, and subtitle color, but also they added a little Spider-Man head icon to let you know which Spider-Man is speaking, as whenever Pete or Miles talks and they are in their spider suits, the speaker tag labels them as both Spider-Man, and the only way to tell is by their icons, which is actually kind of pretty neat, honestly. So I like that little touch. There's also a neat feature added in Miles Morales that I thought was really cool, and that's narrated ASL, which was also added in Spider-Man 2. Which, when enabled, will give a voice-acted line for whenever Haley, a character introduced in Miles Morales, speaks. In the game, normally there are subtitles whenever she speaks in ASL, but with this turned on, you have a deaf actor reading her lines, which I thought was great for deaf representation. She's a great character that I absolutely loved in Miles Morales, and so I'm glad that she's also in Spider-Man 2. Sorry for the minor spoiler, but, it does deal with accessibility, so I had to talk about it. There are some cool new features to adjust high and low audio frequencies. If there are higher frequencies like a ringing from an explosion, you can turn those frequencies off, or if you're sensitive to lower frequencies like the low rumble of an explosion, you can turn those off as well. Or you can actually even adjust the frequency cutoff yourself if you need to. There's also a voice boost too if you need a little extra boost of dialogue volume to separate from all of the other audio effects. For motor disabled players, there's some great options that I would add that can be useful for other disabilities too. There are a few camera assists that will automatically snap the camera to the back of Spider-Man, so whenever you're swinging through New York or in combat, the camera is always facing where your character is looking. Also, I use some options that helped a ton in my playthrough that help with combat. You can turn on melee mode where you can set it anytime you hold the attack button. It will do either one single attack or a 4-move combo, or you can set it to continuous where you'll continuously attack until you hit another button to interrupt it. But what's also cool is you can actually turn on an option to do a continuous dodge as well. These two options are great because one of the complaints I had, and also some of my friends in the community had with both Spider-Man games, is how combat was a constant button mash fest, and that can tire out or cause pain after playing. Well, with this continuous melee, you can have that constantly going while you can concentrate on dodging, which is something that I use because to dodge, I have to concentrate on Spidey spider sense in order for me to be able to know when to time that dodge correctly. Or if you need help with dodging, you can set it to a continuous dodge to help you, give you a break to figure out what your next combat move will be and limit getting hit by enemies while you're figuring that out. Believe me, this was a huge game changer, especially near the end of the game when enemies come at you fast and there's plenty of them. Which I should also mention as well, there is a game speed option that you can be able to set from 70, 50 to 30%. And believe me, it really came in handy in Ratchet & Clank to allow me to be able to do combat, and it definitely came in handy here in Spider-Man 2, especially near the end. I won't spoil it, but enemies come at you quick and fast, and that game speed helped me in order to be able to figure out when to dodge and when to hit. Man, I love game speed. Plus, as well, for motor disabled players, the returning ability to turn off QuickTime events is back, along with Web Shooter Burst, which will fire 3 web shooters when hitting R1 at the same time, which is usually enough to stick enemies to a wall or at least incapacitate a sort of a medium-sized enemy. The larger ones, you have to kind of upgrade your skills in order to be able to get to that point. Now, I do have to mention this because this was my biggest uh-oh moment when playing the game that I, for the life of me, couldn't figure out how to bypass. I have to give a minor spoiler for this because it is not only tied to one of the side quests you do in the city, but it also comes up near the end of the game twice as part of the main story. You first come across it when you unlock the Prowler's missions and find his tech in secret hideouts throughout the city. In it, you have to use the trigger buttons to line up a target with a line on a vertical bar that has varying thickness and placement in this vertical bar. The problem is you must subtly push down on the triggers to line up to that target and then hold that position for a few seconds to complete the task. There is no skip puzzle option or simplify puzzle option, and there's nothing that bypasses it. So if you have trouble pushing down on the trigger buttons, this will be a major blocker because it will show up twice near the end of the main story that, as far as I can tell, you can't bypass. I feared this when PlayStation was promoting the adaptive triggers on the DualSense for the PS5 and how you can have tension on the triggers and do different button presses by subtly pushing on the trigger. While the idea is cool on paper, it is not accessible. As I said, I have no clue if there is an option to turn this off or simplify for motor disabled players, but if there is, I couldn't find it. Overall, this game is good. It definitely has some gaps that we'll address in December's update, but what Insomniac did was say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, because what they have in both Spider-Man Remastered and Miles Morales pretty much is more refined here in Spider-Man 2. But, you know, they also added some cool new features too. I won't give a review score until I can play this again in December with the new update, but I would recommend the game based on what it has right now, and mention too, it's probably best to wait if any of the issues that I talked about either are blockers or you need those features that are in the December update in order for you to be able to play. I wish I could be able to give a more definitive answer than that, but as of right now, I don't feel right giving it a score based on what it has and knowing what's going to be coming in the future in just 2 months. So I'm going to leave it at that and just say it's a recommend, but with an asterisk saying probably best to wait maybe till December. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Also, if you want to help support me directly so I can do more cool stuff like this, please offer any support you can on my Patreon at patreon.com/Steve Saylor. I really do appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. And as always, I remain obediently yours. Bye-bye.